everyone, and welcome to the Pumpkin Patch. I'm the Beastly Pumpkin, and today we'll be going over the top 5 Bigfoot attacks recorded in history. Number 5. One of the most widely known and publicized cases of an attack on humans from an alleged Bigfoot occurred in the summer of 1924. 5 prospectors by the names of Marin Smith, his son Roy Smith, Fred Beck, Gabe Lefevre, and John Peterson were out in the wilds of Mount St. Helens in Washington. The group was out in the remote wilderness working on a claim in the area off the branch of the Lewis River, about 8 miles from Spirit Lake, when they came across the first of many oddities to come. They found many footprints, 14 inches in length, with unusually stubby toes. Not long after this, the men began to see strange creatures throughout the trees. They saw a 7-foot-tall gorilla-like figure lurking in the trees, and was described as being covered in long black hair and sporting 4-inch long ears. On the morning of July 10th, when the group was still out on their expedition, Beck saw one of the creatures standing near the edge of a cliff, and he decided to take a shot at it. He directly hit the creature, and the creature fell, plummeting at least 400 feet down to its death. Later that evening, the men were relaxing at their camp in the cabin they had built, when they were startled by a sudden and urgent pounding. Confused as to what was going on, they took a look outside, and they saw giant rocks being hurled towards the cabin. They were breaking windows, smashing into the roof. Beck would later claim that the men had fired wildly into the night, in all directions, even through the roof, to try and keep the demons at bay. According to the prospectors, there were dozens of them, and it was not until the coming morning that they were finally able to escape, leaving their cabin, their equipment, and potentially a valuable claim. They later came to name the creatures the Mountain Devils. As soon as the story was out, it became widely known as Ape Canyon, and natives of the area suggested that the men had come across a tribe of 7 to 8 foot tall, hairy wild men with supernatural powers. They said the creatures were typically shy and hardly ever seen, but would exact great vengeance on anyone who killed one of their own. The story of the Ape Canyon Bigfoot attack has become a major part of Bigfoot lore ever since. So what do you think? Were these 5 prospectors attacked by a tribe of Bigfoot after killing one of their own? Or was it all just a hoax? Number 4. In a bizarre twist that may have nothing to do with Beck's story, in May of 1950, a mountaineer and skier by the name of Jim Carter suddenly and mysteriously disappeared in the same canyon while out on a climbing expedition on a warm, sunny day. A subsequent search would turn up footprints that seemed to suggest that the man had been frantically running as if he was being chased. They found massive footprints chasing after him, but they never found a sign of Jim Carter. The footprints led down steep embankments, hurtling over recklessly across rivers, crevasses. One searcher, mountaineer, and member of the Seattle Mountain Search and Rescue Team, Bob Lee, has said that there is a constant sense of being watched. He would say, and quote, "It was the most eerie experience I had ever had. There was something strange on the high slopes of the mountain. I could feel the hair on my neck standing up. It was eerie. I was unarmed, except for my ice axe. And believe me, I never let go of that." Carter's complete disappearance is an unsolved mystery to this day. After 2 weeks of searching by nearly 100 different rescuers, no signs of Carter, other than the strange evidence of his mad dash down the mountain, were ever found. Lee would go on to say, with dead seriousness, that the Mountain Devils had got to him. Number 3. This next report was published in 1892 in a book written by none other than former President and rugged outdoorsman Theodore Roosevelt himself. It's called The Wilderness Hunter, In one entry of the book, Roosevelt describes the frightening encounter of a frontiersman called Only Bauman, who was allegedly out with a partner at an isolated area of Montana's Wisdom River. The men made a makeshift camp and went out to trap. And when they returned, they found not only their packs had been ripped open, but the lean-to had also been destroyed. The men foolishly decided to stay, and merely rebuilt the lean-to and tidied up the camp. That night, Bauman was supposedly awoken by something crashing through the brush. Once he was awoken by this noise, he smelled an oppressive, foul stink. Bauman grabbed his rifle and shot out into the night, after which the creature reportedly scampered off. The following morning, the men made preparations to leave, and decided that they had had enough of the strange occurrences that have happened. Bauman allegedly gathered up their traps, while his partner went ahead to set up a new camp farther down the river. But when Bauman arrived, he found a grisly sight. His friend had been killed. His neck was twisted all the way around, and horrific bite marks were all the way around his neck. Although this whole encounter could have just been a bear attack, it was still strange nonetheless. The massive stench that Bauman smelled was unlike anything else, as well as they found footprints around the camp that were unlike any bear. Number 2. A very bizarre and much more recent report of an alleged attack happened in 1965 in Monroe County, Michigan, when a 17-year-old Christina Van Aker was driving home one evening with her mother. As they drove, there was reportedly a loud thud that reverberated through the entire car and shook the vehicle. Thinking they had hit an animal or a person, they stopped the car to take a look. According to the report, as soon as Christina rolled down her window, a massive arm, covered in black hair, had then reached through the window and grabbed her head and smashed it against the car door, so hard that it rendered her unconscious. Christina's mother then began to scream. It seemed to have startled the creature and sent it running off into the woods. The mother would claim that the hairy ape-like beast was around 7 feet tall and had growled like a mad dog. So do you believe this mother and daughter were attacked by a Sasquatch in their car? Or is it all just a hoax? Number 1. This next report is even more recent. The year 2000, in a rural part of Oklahoma. The witness, known only as Mike, supposedly bought a farm where him and his family were to live. Several months after moving, strange things began to happen. One evening, they started to hear loud bangs on the front door, sometimes even loud bangs on the side of the house. In the following days after hearing these strange thuds on the house, he claimed that he saw his shadowy figure that stood 8 feet tall lurking around the property. After seeing the creature, a group of 30 chickens went missing from the chicken coop. The door to the shed and the barn had been completely ripped off. In addition to this, on several occasions they heard unearthly and deafening screeching, wailing, and booming from out in the forest at night. Mike asked his brother, Tim, for help. The two men decided to try and set up a stakeout to shoot the intruder with their rifles. After several nights of staying awake in the dark with their rifles held close, a man-like hairy face peered through one of the windows of the house. Mike and his brother Tim saw the creature peering through the window. The creature began to growl and bang on the house. The two brothers then fired shots at it, sending the creature fleeing back into the woods. As the two men ran out onto the porch to pursue it, they saw it fall to the ground, apparently dead. And 3 more massive beasts allegedly came out of the forest and carried the carcass away. The next evening, those 3 creatures came back for revenge. As the brothers reportedly having their house assaulted by the creatures hurled stones at the walls and violently rattled the doors. The windows were broken. These attacks happened night after night, and these attacks would persist until the family decided to move away. The incident has been commonly called the Siege of Honobia, and is very similar to the same attack that happened to Beck in the Ape Canyon encounter. But throughout history there have been plenty of these alleged Bigfoot attacks. There are people that go out into the woods and are attacked by things that they cannot explain. As always, it's up for you to decide. What do you believe? Thank you all for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.